Hey guys, so some of you were asking exactly what it was that I was doing to layer the LA scoring strings first chair solo instruments together, and exactly what I was stacking and why. And if there's only 5 instruments, then why were there so many tracks? So I'm gonna go through and show you how you can get away with some kind of cool stuff here. So if our first track is, it looks like basses hitting quarter notes. That's exactly what it is. All right, and the next one. So that is actually the exact same part, just played an octave lower. And if we hit them together, it's a little fuller. You do get a stronger sound because you do have the same part being played twice, but because they are an octave apart, it rather than makes it really intrusive, it kind of evens things out a little bit. And if we go down, I think the cellos here, these ones are playing eighth notes, and I believe if you listen, they should be in octaves, just like the basses were. So that's the higher octave. That's the lower octave. So again, together. So that's kind of cool. All together with the basses playing in the octaves along with the eighth note cellos. This is kind of the sound we get. And for a lot of this, it might seem easy to just copy and paste your MIDI regions for each track, but I highly suggest not doing that because if they're absolutely in time with each other, keep in mind these are the same players playing these samples. It's going to sound less realistic and less human. As long as they hit the important notes, so maybe every first and third beat, or even just the first beat for those real strong hits that they all hit together, that's cool. On to the next one here. This looks like the 16th note cellos. I should probably point out for the cellos, I'm using the spiccato samples for this one rather than staccato, because the staccato tends to get a little drawn out and there's not as much separation between the notes. It does help if you limit the number of voices being played of the sample, so maybe limit it to 2 or 3 rather than I think 10 it might be set to. That way each one disappears and the trail ends before another one starts. So I think we have the same part here, an octave higher on the cello. And together for the cellos, then we get so that's pretty cool. And you can see, I'm really staggering those parts. So the higher the parts get, the quicker the rhythm. So I'm going from quarters in the bass to eighths in the cello and 16ths in the second set of cellos. All of them playing different octave regions. That way it sounds like they're different players and they're not totally quantized perfectly. And that way those lower notes really hit a lot harder. So if we take a listen to all 6 tracks. So that can be pretty cool. What I've got here is legato basses, and I should tell you, the staccato basses I used up in here for the quarter notes are actually meant to be the strong hit for legato. So if someone was striking the bow on the string and then drawing out a long legato patch, the legato part sounds like this. But if we combine that with the staccato hit, it creates a stronger, distinct hit at the start of each chord change. So altogether, the basses, again, the legato basses are playing in octaves here. I'll just show you that. Just to keep it, rather than keep both of them in the lower octave, that would just sound kind of messy, and again, it would sound artificial because it's the same sample. So altogether. Gives this a pretty strong bottom end. I also have 2 legato cello parts here. Let's see what this is. So that's kind of like a harmonic complement to the rest of the progression. And this part is just an octave above it. So together, having that octave in between really creates a full sound. And this is kind of getting away with not having the DVC patches where you can separate 2 or 3 or 4 players at a time rather than an entire ensemble. This allows you to kind of get a similar effect. Not exactly the same degree, but pretty close. Let's see here. I think I have violas that either they might be mimicking the cellos or playing their own line. So it's starting on the root, I believe, if it's hitting that. So that would be, I think that's an A major that was. And just going from the A to the C sharp and then back to the A again. And then we have the, it looks like these are separated incorrectly, but let's take a look here. We have a legato violin solo player. That's the main melody from the A to the F sharp to the C sharp, and then we have the second chair. Combining those is a pretty wise idea. The first violin solo and second violin solo, because you can have them playing the exact same part, but because they're different players and different samples, you are going to have, rather than a really annoying, obvious layered sample, you're going to have 2 independent players playing the same melody. And then I've got a legato violin here, playing an octave higher over the main melody. And what do we got here? Oops. You can probably tell by listening that what you're hearing is the second player. So the second violin solo legato in the high octave. And that is a legato viola playing up top in that super high octave. It's kind of a very dramatic sound. A little more intense in the violins. And then we've got the last one here, another legato viola, playing the melody line an octave lower. So when we have our main high strings, so our violas and violins playing our legato patches, we have this. And the key idea to layering harmonic structures, I find, is rather than just adding more and more notes across the entire scale, like looking down at your piano, rather if you have the same different instruments playing the same parts, I mean, you could have a cello playing in the same range as at the very top of the cello as you could almost like a violin, but the color that you're going to get between them is going to be very different. So as soon as you do that, you get a blended sound, and then if you have each of them play that same part an octave different, then you have an even more spread out but still full sound. So if we listen to all of the lower ones, so our basses, cellos, we have this. Fighting for parts. Like this cello didn't stand out as much, but when you listen to it and then you go back and listen to them all together again, you can kind of hear exactly what they're doing. And I should point out, there's no reverb on any of these. These are all really, really, really dry. Anyone who's used LASS, LA scoring strings, knows that they're recorded incredibly dry and very close, which is fantastic, especially for the solo players. With a lot of samples like Vienna, for example, they're quite big to start, and drawing it back, if you draw back the reverb on it, the quality isn't necessarily as sharp. It's very dry, like it's almost too much on the LASS. But it allows you to add your own reverb. So altogether, we have a really layered sound of, I think there's about 9 players altogether if you divvy up the parts properly. So you get a pretty cool sound altogether. I will add some reverb here for you just so you can kind of hear what it's missing. Where's our master output? And because we have staccato and legato strings, I'm not going to put a really big reverb on it. Normally I would use a really big one just for legato, and only maybe cellos and higher, not for the basses, because the lower end instruments tend to get lost in really big rooms with a lot of low end, and shorter reverb trails work better for the staccato notes. So again, you get more separation. There's still that sense of space, but rather than having 16th notes on like the highest part of the cello playing in a massive cathedral, that's going to get really washed out. Put it to something a little different. So let's see here. Can even go even a medium-sized theater. So if we listen to the same part over without any reverb here, so you can hear it's a large space with a big sense of depth, but a short reverb, so that really gives everyone its own unique little places. So if you've seen the other video with this same demonstration, comparing solo strings and the ensemble in LASS, you've noticed I've also got the full ensemble patches playing relatively the same parts actually as these ones. So it's a duplication. So what you can do is take the ensemble patches and actually layer those side by side with the solo patches, and you get a little bit more clarity and pronounced dynamic. So hope you enjoyed this. Keep sending me messages, comments, whatever, and I'll try and make more for you.